Hello, we have a special live pregame edition this morning on the Out of Bounds Sports Podcast, as I will be attempting to cover three NBA teams this morning. The first team up is going to be the Phoenix Suns versus the San Antonio Spurs. Yesterday, if you got a chance to watch that game, the Spurs did lose 140 to 103, and I expected the Spurs to struggle against this Phoenix squad because this is the number one Western Conference team, and the Spurs are, I think, in tenth place right now. But to 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 predict that they was gonna lose by 37 points, I mean, like I just didn't think that they was gonna lose by 37. Ahead of the game, we discovered that Coach Pop decided not to be a part of this game or coach this game because he was attending the Hall of Fame ceremony of Tim Duncan, which I did get a chance to catch last night. Very emotional Hall of Fame broadcast that I saw yesterday when they brought out Kobe's wife and she addressed the the Hall of Fame and things like that. I mean, it was a very nice ceremony, and just wish that Kobe had been around to be able to see it. You know, but back to this game, 140 to 103. Coach Pop decided not to attend the game and to attend the Hall of Fame ceremonies. Today, we're going to hear from Coach Pop today, and hear him speak about probably the Hall of Fame a little bit and things like that. But the Spurs are in 10th seed right now, and they're in that final playing spot. They're not too far behind Memphis and Golden State, which both teams actually play today. So, if the Spurs find a way to win today, and Memphis or Golden State lose today, they can lock up their lock into that seed. The Spurs, I would give them an excuse reason for the 37 point. They lost. They didn't have most of their guys yesterday, but I'm not sure who's playing today. I guess whenever Coach Pop gets up there and address the media, we'll be able to know about his lineup. A lot of times he keeps those kind of close to the vest until game time, but we'll see if we can get some questions answered when it comes to his rotation this morning. But missing last game was DeMar DeRozan. They didn't have DeJounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, Rudy Gay, Patty Mills. Neither one of them were playing. So we did see Drew Eubanks in his third start. Also, Devin Vassell. I had a question for him yesterday. I did get a chance to speak with him, but I didn't get a chance to record it because I was out and about yesterday, and I was able to get on the Zoom, but I wasn't able to record it. So I don't have the question that I asked him, but I did get a chance to speak to him a little bit about the overall energy and expectations going into the playoff game of the team. They're going into the 10th spot, but they haven't really played particularly well leading up to this playing situation. And I just wanted to know exactly what the team was going through as far as like mentally, what things that the team needs to address, what things, what can they build on that are doing great in. And I was provided with some great context when it came to that. If I can find the video, I'll be able to share that with everybody, as soon as I have that. But man, just going back to the Hall of Fame speech from yesterday, it was very emotional. Just whenever I thought I was gonna be okay when it came to Kobe's induction, but I just listened to it, and just hearing Vanessa stand up there and talk about his accomplishments and talk about his legacy, it was really difficult to process. I've been a Kobe and Laker fans for the past 20 years, and this was the culmination. This was where everyone knew that Kobe's career was going to end up enshrined in Springfield. But for him not to be able to attend, due to the tragedy, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to process. Tim Duncan had a great speech as well. Since we're on the Spurs pregame Tim Duncan had a great speech. He really doesn't talk much to the media and things like that over the course of his career. He was really quiet and he was just fundamental. You love Tim Duncan just because of the way his personality was. He wasn't boisterous. He didn't fit the prototypical mold of an NBA superstar, and that's what made him unique. He was great power forward. A lot of people will argue that he's one of the greatest power forwards of all time. I believe the five championships that they do have, you know, the Lakers probably would have had a little bit more if it wasn't for Tim Duncan and those Spurs teams. But nothing to take away from them. That he had a great career and very well deserved. Sound like we have some activity going on with the Spurs stream. Let me go ahead and add them so y'all can be able to follow along with that once we get Coach popped up there early this morning. We do have like a lot of different ones this morning, so bear with me as we try to navigate through this. This is just part one, so we got 3. So we will be streaming the pre-games of the Memphis Grizzlies as well as the Golden State Warriors. So we'll be on there and addressing that. So we have a comment. Yeah, I mean, like for me, just going back to this comment, just about how it hurt to see not to see Kobe, participating. It's just because of the tragedy. I mean, it was very hard. I do have a story that day, and you can go back to my Facebook page from that day. I had a post. It was like in April of 2016. It was like one of the last games of the season, and I had said I posted. I said, Kobe, go out there and get 60 points. I kid you not. The day of that game, prior to tip off, I said Kobe dropped 60, and he didn't score 59 points. He scored 61 points. He scored exactly 60 points. And I feel like, we had some kind of connection in that moment. I've never met Kobe personally, but when I posted that and he ended up getting 60 points, that was one of the first things I went to. I said, look, the post. I said, go ahead and get 60. And he went out there and got 60. Shaq challenged him to get 50. And he got 60. So, that's just typical Kobe fashion. He, left us with so many great memories, but that last and final game would, would be etched in my brain forever. Just knowing how much injuries that he had, going into that final season and, things like that. I didn't think he played much that final season, over the course of his career. Every injury, he just battled through it. And for the last and final game to save up a 60-point game, it was amazing. Just to be able to witness that and to be able to see that. I just wish that I had personally, been able to go out and see him play. But in over 20 years, I've never been to a game where I was able to sit and watch Kobe actually play live. And that's one of the biggest things that I regret, that I was never able to see him up close and personal, just to see him play. That would have been so great for me. That one of the greatest things that I can look back on and say, hey, I got a chance to see Kobe Bryant play. And now that he's gone, I'm never going to chance to meet him either. So, it was just really difficult. It was really tough to mentally process yesterday, just because it just puts everything in more perspective, Yeah, I mean, I feel you on that, and it's just as long as I've been following Kobe, and to see him tragically leave the way he left, and it was just hard to process. And then going back to that day, I remember it like it was yesterday. I had just left the gym myself, and I was taking my family out to eat, and my mother texted me a, a picture or an article about Kobe tragically passing away. And I quickly, just like all the other stories that you have probably heard before, that's what happened with me. Just like everybody else, just thought it was like a hoax. Like, why is people playing about something like that? And I quickly dismissed it. Like, people are playing around. But I had to look at the source that my mother sent it from. This wasn't Deadspin. This wasn't, one of those known hoax sites. This was TMZ. And normally TMZ, with their reputation, they're dead accurate when it comes to information such as that. They hardly ever. Me personally, I've never seen them wrong when it comes to anything related to that. And so, even though I was still putting it off as a hoax and calling for the jobs or whoever posted that, in the back of my mind, like deep in the back of my mind, and said that it's a possibility there could be some validity to this. And I kid you not, about 5 minutes later, I was in a restaurant. There was a TV that broke the news that Kobe had tragically passed away in a helicopter crash, and there was no survivors. And they was working through the scene and an investigation right there, and it was just, I froze. I hardly even finished my food, and it was just the most difficult thing that I ever experienced. It was almost like I lost a family member. I lost someone that I was close to, but that I never met. And yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. And if we're looking at the comments, TMZ has never been inaccurate when it comes to that. I was looking at it and I was like, please let this one be wrong. And I looked at it, and I'm telling you, 5 minutes later, it was reported that Kobe had tragically passed away. The only thing that I hated about that whole entire situation, the one thing that I hated was that that's how the family were notified. The family found out just like everybody else did. If I'm in a situation where a loved one that's that close and something like that was that happened, I would hate for that to be the narrative. That would be the case where I found out just like everybody else did in the world. They didn't give enough time for them to work through the details of who was on the plane and things like that. Because even when you start listening to some of the things they was trying to figure out who all was on there, they knew for sure Kobe that was his helicopter, and they had an itinerary with him as being a passenger and things like that. But they wasn't 100% sure, and I feel like TMZ rushed it because they didn't have all the details. They were still trying to figure out who all and the names of who all was on the plane with Kobe. We knew he was on there because that was his plane, and they knew where he was supposed to be going. But I think one news report said that they thought Rick Fox was on there, or and they was trying to figure out who all was on there, and then they said somebody, his daughter was on there as well. And the last thing I had said, I said, God, please let his daughter not have been on there. I know, the situation with Kobe, they already confirmed that he was on there for sure. But the biggest deflator for me was that his daughter was on there too. That that hurt. That really hurt. Just to know how ambitious she was when it came to watching her dad play, and how close they were. that really hurt. One thing that I remember that Vanessa had said, once everything was confirmed and settled, she had posted something that I remember I never forget, and she said that if God took Kobe, it's not too far fetched that he had to bring Gigi with him because of how close they were. That was powerful for her to make that statement, but also shed light on their relationship. That was phenomenal for her to have that strength. Vanessa is such a strong woman, and to go through a tragedy, in the eyes of the public like she has, that right there, just shows the strength of who she is, and that she has what it takes to process that. I know that she probably has her days, has her nights, but she's able to keep it all together in the eyes of the public whenever she does speak. Over the course of 20-year career, I kid you not, I've never heard Vanessa speak. I never heard her talk to the public or anything like that. Every time I see Kobe, it was always, if she did, I never really paid attention, just because, Kobe was the person that I was following. I never really, heard her speak. But the very first time that I actually heard her speak was during that, I think during his ceremony when they was honoring him, his homegoing celebration. And that's when she was at Staples, but I never heard her like I heard like little clips here and there whenever they have conversations and they catch it on video, but I've never heard her like do a public speaking engagement like that, like something like that, and dealing with a tragedy. This, thinking about it on a human perspective. Here's a woman that lost a husband and a child. Forget that, like, who Kobe was, like, as far as just for a second, just forget that he was an NBA basketball player and he was one of the greatest players of all time. A woman lost a husband and a child, and it's all over the news. Everyone knew about it, and that just, just putting it in that perspective, and putting in that, more in context, that's difficult to process. I wouldn't personally know how to handle something like that. And just shout out to Vanessa Bryant and her strength, and her being able to help us through this too. Because even though I've never met the family, I don't know anyone personally from that family, but to have her, display that public strength gives fans a little bit of reassurance that she's okay. Because even though we rooted for Kobe, we were Kobe fans. If you care anything about the man, you want to make you want to know that the family he left behind is okay as well. And even though publicly she seems like she has it all together and things, but yesterday I could just tell she was just worn, like just tired. And not just like, like I just can just tell that tragedy is difficult to, she's gonna have to deal with that or feel that, for the rest of the time that she's here. The children as well. And that's a difficult thing to process. So if you're just now tuning in, this this show kind of took a life and form of its own. We're right now waiting for Coach Pop to address the media ahead of their Phoenix game. I'm not sure exactly what time. I know we had a time designated for the media to be logged in for this, but we don't have a clear time of when Coach Pop is going to be available. But we do have some other teams that we're going to be covering today. So if we don't get a chance to hear from Coach Pop, we're definitely going to be doing another broadcast. This is part one of possibly four today. Possibly four teams. I haven't confirmed the fourth team just yet, but we're going to be doing a different type of show today. It's going to be broken up in potentially four different segments. This is just the first one, and they're all time restricted because right now I think they're having early morning games, depending on what time zone the teams are in. The games are a little bit earlier. I'm in Central Time Zone, so the games are definitely right now. It's 11:51 my time, and I'm on the same time tick as the Spurs, but I'm not sure if they're playing in Phoenix. I need to check into that. I'm just hoping this game is a little bit more competitive than it was yesterday. I mean, I think the reason why they pulled the starters, they're pretty much already locked up their position when it came to the play-in anyway. Like if they win, lose, or draw, but you still want to make sure that you're like in the NBA, so you want to compete. 37 points. I mean, that's difficult to process. So why he even showed up for this game? So, um, yeah, we're just waiting for Coach Pop. Let's look at the box score from last game because we didn't get a chance to do the post game yesterday. We did. I didn't get a chance to broadcast the post game. I should say I was logged in for the post game interview questions, but let's look at the box scores from that game. We're waiting right now. Just gonna pull up a few of those stats. All right, so going to the Spurs, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, Drew Eubanks, Devin Vassell, Patty Mills. You got Trey Jones, Quandre Witherspoon, and Gorgie Dean. And Keita Bates Jop. They all played on yesterday. That was the rotation for yesterday. Keldon Johnson and Gorgie Dean led the team with 18 points, both in 25 minutes on the floor. You see some of the heavier minutes went to some of the guys that doesn't really get into the rotation as much, with Devin Vassell having 34 minutes on the floor. He had the most minutes. He had 14 points total. Now, as a team, it feel like, the first quarter, the Phoenix Suns had a big first quarter where the score was 34-17 at the end. Then the Spurs started getting a little bit more momentum, so they had more points in the second quarter, but it was a complete wipeout in the third quarter. So the biggest variance in this game was the first quarter and the third quarter, where Phoenix had a sizable lead in the first quarter. They had a sizable lead in the third quarter, and they just never overcame it in the fourth. So that's the reason. So when you have the first quarter so lopsided, and then you have the third quarter just completely lopsided, like it was a complete wipeout in both quarters. You had the first quarter where they, just didn't compete at all. They just didn't compete, and they had a variance in that match in that quarter of 17. So they was trailing by 17 going into the second quarter. They boosted up a little bit, started hitting shots. They think they scored 30 points in the second quarter. But coming back from the break, they were down, going into the break still because of the first quarter. But it was another 18 points. So that was 35 points that they gave. Like, they was trailing, and they never got back into it. That's your ball game. The first quarter and the third quarter were that they struggled the most. The list of injury reports, I'm going to go ahead and go out. Like right now, they have Patty Mills, he's out. They have Luka out. They have Derek White, he's out. Rudy Gay's available. DeJounte Murray is available. Lonnie Walker's available. So the only one that's out due to rest right now is Patty Mills. They're going to rest Patty today. Like I said before, I don't really know what their rotation is going to be. Hopefully we can see what Coach Pop has for us to be able to see what the rotation is going to be like, but we don't know as of yet. So if you're just tuning in, we are live on the Spurs pregame show. We got a few upcoming in a few minutes. Hopefully we can be able to hear Coach Pop before it's time to go to the next broadcast. Have a special treat. We got Memphis coming up. We also got the pregame for the Golden State Warriors. There's a little ways away, so we shall see. If this is your first time tuning into the Out of Bounds Sports Podcast, please like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter. And also, make sure you support our sponsor, Manscaped. 20% off, free shipping with the promo code right there in the description. Say it again, at manscaped.com. Not sure what the holdup is with the Spurs pregame, but we're going to go ahead and end the show temporarily. We'll be back with part 2 of the pregame show on Out of Bounds. I want to thank you for tuning in. Come back and check us in about 30 minutes. We should have Memphis and Golden State Warriors coming up for the pregame of their matchups and things like that. So thank you for tuning in, and we will definitely be back.
If you love the Out of Bounds Sports Podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe.